I'll tell you what is stressful is knowing when to start, because I try and do this in one take. I press record, and then I'm like, oh shit, now I need to think of a really good start point. And that start point there was probably as good as any. But I will start by saying, I am back. I'm sorry. I said I was going to do one before I went away. I don't think I managed. I then said I was going to do an episode while I was away. I didn't manage. But we're back, and now I'm holding myself to a regular weekly. That will get better every week. And yeah, sorry about that. I've also made some notes for this one, so hopefully it's going to be a little bit more on it. I was thinking about things to talk about, and I think I was singing a song as I was thinking, and this song had rather prolific, wish I hadn't chosen to say that word, had a lot of swear words in it, and I was swearing away singing the song, and it reminded me of, on one of my holidays, someone called me up on my use of language, and I was told my language was quite poor. And I suppose I know that I swear quite a lot, but it's usually from a good place, I say, where I will swear when I'm passionate. I said, my response was, it is because I give you a more genuine response to the thing you're telling me about than most other people. So at the time we were eating something, and it was fucking good. So I went, oh, that's fucking nice. Whereas, I don't know, someone else might have gone, oh, this tastes splendid, or whatever. And I just think that's fucking fake. So that was my defense to it. And it got me thinking. I was like, oh, I do swear quite a lot. And I swear a lot in the podcast. That's what I'm going to call it now, episode 3. Maybe we can call it that. Apparently very few podcasts get past the 5th episode, so we're getting there. But digressing a bit and going back. If you do find my swearing offensive, okay, I suppose with my tongue in my cheek, cool, you can fuck off too. So there we go. For me, it's endearing, and it's because I get passionate, and when I get passionate, I swear. So later on, as we get into some things, if I do start swearing, it's because, I am talking passionately. So the title of today, I thought I was going to make, is how to be consistent. Consistency is key, something like that. Consistency, discipline. People throw these words around. It's so fucking lame. And I wanted to give my take on it, because I think consistency and discipline are different things, but they're strongly interlinked. In fact, I was sure of it, but I couldn't think of how to put it into words. So in classic professional fashion these days, I asked my good friend, Dr. ChatGPT, and on screen behind the camera now, I have a little reminder that I recall. So the first thing I wanted to go through is step 1, consistency versus discipline, and where they cross over. So I'm sure I wrote about this recently, but consistency is obviously being able to do something consistently, which means doing it over and over and over for a prolonged period. Discipline would be doing something when you don't want to do it. So typically, I see this very often with clients, is your first 3 weeks of trying to do something new, or whatever it is, maybe first 3 episodes, you're very motivated to do it. And then suddenly the novelty wears off and you realize the mammoth task that you've got. I've just thought of another way this ties into something else, but I'm trying not to go sharp. After that 3-week period, you suddenly don't want to do it. And that's usually when the discipline kicks in, because you're no longer motivated. But I've just thought there of a reason why I think that takes place, is that when you start a task, I remember, so I started jiu-jitsu, 5 years ago was when I first went to jiu-jitsu. And I remember thinking, I'll be all right. I'd done a few judo sessions in the past. I did judo as a kid for a couple of years. I've played rugby. I thought I'd be fairly athletic, and how hard could it be? And so I went in thinking, out of 100 being a black belt and the best you could be, and 0 being a total beginner, I was like, I will comfortably be somewhere between like a 5 and a 10. I'll be okay. And over those first 3 minutes, really, it didn't take 3 weeks, I very quickly realized that I was so much fucking worse than where I had initially been. And I think that's essentially what happens over this 3-week period when you start something new. Is at the beginning, you're like, this is going to be exciting, it's not going to be that hard. And then 3 weeks in, you realize, oh shit, this is hard. This is probably why I've never done it before. So that's the opportunity when discipline starts to kick in. So again, just to kind of summarize, the main difference is consistency, obviously doing something daily. Discipline is doing something when you don't want to do it. So how do they overlap? Well, the interesting one is that you need to be disciplined in order to be consistent. Duh. You're not going to do something every day unless you have the discipline to do it. Now, this is where I find habits and things stupid, because you can very easily consistently do something bad, something that doesn't help you. For example, for me, I fast before I go to bed consistently, which is not a good thing, because it impacts the amount of sleep I get. Whereas going to bed consistently half an hour earlier would be very good for me and is a much harder thing to do. So obviously there is nuance to what you are consistent with. And that's also where discipline comes in. It does not take discipline for me to go to bed late. It takes very little discipline for that. It takes me being a lazy bastard and getting caught doom scrolling. And that's the trouble. You're like, oh, I'm just going to go and, I don't know, catch up on the latest, what people are saying in the fitness space. And next thing you know, you're doom scrolling and being an idiot. Whereas if I were to go to bed half an hour earlier, there, classic case of discipline. But interestingly, what I was saying to people the other day is that discipline is a skill, in my opinion, and it can be trained because it's a skill. That's generally how skills work. So through being consistent, you train the skill of discipline. I don't know if people really think about that. They just go blanket statement, I am not disciplined, therefore I will never be disciplined. I am not a disciplined person. Maybe some people start with more experience points in their discipline, but I don't think anyone's inherently disciplined. You learn to become disciplined, and I think you challenge yourself along the way. So where did I maybe first start becoming disciplined? I don't know. I consistently started turning up early to training and staying late to training to practice my kicking, to practice my passing, that kind of thing, back when I used to play rugby. So through doing that consistently, I started to practice the discipline of doing the extra things. And that is where I think people often slip up, is they go, oh, I'll never be able to be consistent. I just haven't got the discipline. But it's such a dumb thing to say. It's a bit like saying, I'm currently bad at golf, so therefore I will never be good at golf. But also then refusing to go and practice playing golf. I don't know why I chose golf as an example, but it's as good a one as any. So where's my thing gone? So that was part one. I wanted to talk about the kind of what is the difference in consistency, discipline, and then that kind of crossover. So now that we know that consistency can help you train your discipline, but also you need to be disciplined to be consistent, how can you go to implement that? Well, one of my favorite ones is to try and pick something to do daily. And for me, the one that started it off for me, well, maybe that training one is a good one, but I remember just deciding, fuck it, I'm going to do 50 push-ups every morning. As soon as I wake up, I'm going to do it. And this allowed me to practice being consistent because I had to do it every day. But on a lot of days, it required me to be disciplined because certainly as the time went on, I did not want to do it very much. Especially once I got better at push-ups and I knew that I should be able to do almost 50 without stopping, and the last 10 are always going to be painful, I wanted to do it less. Whereas when I knew I was only going to be able to do it in like sets of 5 or sets of 10 and spend a little longer, it didn't seem nearly as hard a task, which made that make sense. Anyway, giving yourself something like that where you've just got a task that you're going to do every day, and to start with, it's going to feel really fun. But soon enough, you're not going to want to do it. And the classic one could be, daily mile, first thing you do when you wake up, daily mile. Maybe you just make it 1K, maybe it's a 10-minute walk. I like to make it something that you're going to do daily, something you're going to do right upon waking, because that's going to be your biggest chance at being able to do it. And just starting your day off with it. I was trying to read my writing here. I can't even. Oh, there we go. Sorry, I couldn't read my own damn writing. So from there, it's a case of like layering things on. So maybe you start with the push-ups, you're walking, running a mile, whatever it is. Once you can kind of get through a few weeks of doing that, you should get to a point where you should get to like a mental point where you go, I can do this today. Do I need to do it? Should I carry on? Now, obviously the answer in your head is always going to be, no, I'm not going to carry this on because it's a hard thing to do. But I remember Shock Corey's talking about his daily mile. I ran a mile every day for 86 days, which is incredibly unimpressive compared to that guy who's run like 3,000, Crew Mahoney. If you don't know him, check him out. He's very cool. But on the 87th day, the reason I didn't run it was because I felt I built the habit, and I didn't need to prove to myself that I needed to do an 87th day to be consistent. I knew this was something I could continue to do. My concern at the time was the fact that I was training probably too much, taking my training too seriously and not my business seriously enough. That actually that extra mile on my feet, based on the amount of running and skipping and jumping and all that I was doing in my training, it was actually on some days absolutely just that final bit that was making me a bit too sore, calves a bit too tender, which is a kind of classic excuse to give myself to say I don't need to carry it on. But anyway, you should get to that point. And at that point, I would challenge you to keep doing the initial goal you set yourself and then try and layer on another one. So for me, that I was like, cold shower, perfect. Such a quick, easy one, because when you're not used to it, a 10-second blast, or having your normal shower and just finishing with the cold on you for 10 seconds. I used to pretend that I had soap all over my body and I would wash myself with the cold water for like 10 or 15 seconds. And fucking hell, I only started doing it because my one of the guys I was living with, Paddy, he has the dog in him. If you're ever looking for a hard training partner, Paddy just has that dog. He could have a broken leg and he would be running on it until he had to crawl. Anyway, he and I used to share a bathroom, and he would leave the shower on cold. And I always felt like he did it on purpose. I think I spoke to him about it, and it transpired that, he finished his shower on a cold shower and he'd leave it on cold just because he'd turn off the shower. Whereas I took that as a message of, okay, Paddy, you're trying to one-up me here. So every time I get in the shower, I have to turn it to hot, which is him one-upping me, showing me that I'm a little bitch and he's harder than me because he can have cold showers. So I was like, do you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to start having a cold shower in the morning. And for me, I started off just like pretending to wash myself, and then I started doing 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes I did for ages. But I can't remember if I've spoken about it in the past, when I was having mornings practicing this consistency and discipline, where it would be straight into the shower, you do your 3 minutes cold shower, come out and do your 50 push-ups, because also you're a bit of an obsessive freak and you know that having cold water exposure straight after training is worse for the gains. So I would always do the shower first, which is just stupid because it was such a minimal thing and I wasn't exactly doing it for the inverted commas gains. But it went from there, and to be honest, I stuck with the showers for ages. Eventually I stopped the push-ups because it was getting to the point where I'd go to bed at night being like, fucking hell, I don't want to go to bed because I don't want to wake up, because I don't want to do these habits that I'm doing, which isn't very healthy way to think about things. But it was years of practicing consistency every day, which is obviously consistency, but also the discipline through that, because so many days you just didn't want to do it, but you do it. And there you go, it'd be whatever time in the morning, you'd be drinking your coffee and you'd be going, cool, I've done 2 things I really didn't want to do today. I'm winning the day already. And I just, even talking about it now, it's so funny. You look at it and you're like, I'm sure someone could listen to this and be like, oh, snaps for you. You did some push-ups and cold showers. Good for you. Okay, yeah, it's not very fucking hard, but are you doing it? Okay, maybe you are, because you're a tough cookie and it's tough cookie. And it's dead easy for you. But this is the thing. Some things are, you know, I wrote a challenge for someone the other day, 10 push-ups every day, and it's pointless because it's so easy. But they won't do it, you know? And that's the thing with trying to become consistent and practice this skill of discipline, is it doesn't have to be something hard. In fact, sometimes the less significant it is, the harder it is to get someone to do it, because in their mind they're like, oh, this is totally pointless. And so I really do think that this implementation stage is so important. Just pick something. And unfortunately, it needs to be something shit, something you don't want to do. That's why the cold shower one's so good, because it's always there. And what I do now, I've stopped timing it. I just kind of, especially now it's the summer, it's not really cold enough. So once you're cold and the initial shock's gone, you're fine. Whereas in the winter, it's like every second is fucking rank. Turn it's cold, hop in, and I let it wash over me straight from cold. And there's just something about it where you just feel like, you almost feel like you're being pissed on. It feels really degrading, a cold shower. I don't know why, it does. And I just do it now because, is it hard? No. But before I do it every morning, I don't really want to do it. And so again, you're just practicing that skill of doing something you don't want to do. So it's something I couldn't recommend more. Push-ups, shower, walk, whatever it is you want to be. I've written protein here as an example. That's another great one of like, can you consistently have your 2 grams per kilo of protein every day? And without it like fully taking over your life, but you know, can you have a set breakfast in your head where you know you're going to get 30, 40, 50 grams of protein? Same again at your lunch, same at your tea. Can you get your snacks to top it up to the right target? These are just other examples of ways that you can practice this consistency. And then step 3, my favorite, rinse and repeat. So the only way to become consistent is to do it over and over again, i.e. be consistent. And the only way to do that is through being disciplined. And I feel like I'm going in a circle here, because this is the circle. You go round and round and round. You do things day after day after day. Okay, maybe you slip up, you get back into it, and there's your discipline by not slipping up several days in a row. And before you know it, you're just becoming a more disciplined person in everything you do. That's my opinion on it. And I think that's true. But I was reading one of my client check-ins today, or yesterday. Can't remember what day it was. Anyway, one of my clients said something along the lines of they'd had an unreal week, which was so cool to see. And one of their comments was something like, I think they're talking about their win for the week, or you know, they're saying like nothing overly exciting, just training hard and hitting my calorie target, hitting my protein target. And I sort of went back to them and I was like, that's really cool to hear you say, because it's not exciting after the first few times. And after you start the new thing, it's not exciting. He's trying to lose a decent amount of weight. It's not going to be very fun. There will be moments in it that are fun, like training generally, I think, can be fun, especially when it's, you know, an upper body day and you've got dumbbell bench superset with some kind of dumbbell row, and you just walk out with a nice big pump. I always think that's quite fun. But you know, the diet aspect to it, you're going to spend several weeks in a deficit. Okay, maybe you get back to maintenance for a bit, but then you're back into the deficit. And if you're someone who for the first time in a long time is paying attention to what they eat, that's a big challenge, changing your nutrition. And that's why I always try and start people off with small changes that are almost unnoticeable, and then over time you make another small change, and eventually work towards bigger changes and lasting impact with that. But I just love to hear him acknowledge the fact that, okay, I'm into the phase now where it's the rinse and repeat. This is where the kind of, I was trying to think of the what do you call them? The expression, not the expression, the analogy, the wolf from the sheep, but that's not the right one. I usually say sayings wrong anyway, see if people comment on it. But he's really getting to that phase now where it's like, oh, this is shit, but hey ho, I'm going to keep going. And fingers crossed, he keeps it going for another few weeks. And then maybe I feel like motivation's almost like a wheel and it comes back round. So give me one sec. I've got something in my throat. Sorry. I don't know. I think it was in one of these Shakespeare books I got made to read at school. The Wheel of Fortune was something someone believed. And at the very top of the wheel was fortune, and at the very bottom was misfortune, if that's the word. And the wheel kind of goes round. And it doesn't go round at a set speed. It might go round absolutely rapidly. And you go fortune, unfortune, fortune, misfortune, and it just goes round. And maybe it goes around so fast you hardly notice it. Maybe you have times when it moves really slowly and you stay really fortunate for a bit, and then you get to a really misfortunate bit for a little bit of time. But anyway, the reason I bring that up is because I think of motivation as the same thing. It's a wheel, and you'll spend periods of time where you're incredibly motivated, and then you'll spend equal periods of time where you're so unmotivated. And my hope with this client is that in this rinse and repeat phase now, motivation's going to be low, so we're going to rely on discipline. But after a few weeks of being consistent and being disciplined in order to do that, you get to this point where you're like, fuck, I'm motivated because I did not want to do that for the last few weeks and I did it. I'm seeing the results. Get in, this is sick. And, I certainly have seen a similar example with when I first started putting myself out there on social media and into the online space as someone who I always had this lifelong goal of retiring to the mountains, snowy mountains, to a cabin with a dog. A bit of a social recluse in that sense. So the thought of posting on social media every day was crazy to me. So when I first started off and I got over it for the first time, I remember being like, oh shit, this is uncharted territory. This is kind of exciting, this nervous energy. And then it got to the point where I was like, oh fuck, this is hard. And I'm getting 2 views and a like from my granny. And neither of my grannies are alive, but you know what I mean? A comment from my family member being like, go Tom, that kind of thing. And it's so cringe, but you just kind of keep going. And then because you kept going, you're like, oh, cool. Now I'm motivated and confident. And I've got the discipline behind me. It kind of gives you that added layer of motivation. So there's an example. I think you can put all of this into any aspect of life, whatever you do for work as well. If you're trying to push your own work harder, any of these things apply to everything. I think that once you realize that, you do realize that a lot of aspects of life, it is just one big game where the rules are kind of the same for everyone, and you just got to trudge away and hope for the best by being consistent and keep turning up. So yeah, that's nearly 25 minutes. I got through that. I spent a bit longer on that than I thought I might have. So I will hold off the third bit I was going to go into, but potentially. But the next bit I want to talk to, because I feel like it's kind of linked to this, was limiting beliefs. And what I mean by that is, the things people say, like, I could never. I'm not a morning person. I'm not disciplined enough. I spoke about it earlier. You can see how this is now going to have that crossover with the discipline and consistency. And what I think it does is it allows you to fall back to your bad habit because that's just who you are. So, do I go and be vulnerable and give an example of myself? Geez, I don't know. I can't think of one on the spot. But, my classic thing is... So I as a morning person, I mentioned that I force myself to be a morning person. I am very much a person who could sleep till 10 and stay up till 2 or 3 in the morning. In fact, I always think of I try and go to bed at 9 at the moment and get up 5:45 so I can start my day. And I've stuck with that for a few months now, maybe weeks, months. And it just lets me it gives me maximum opportunity to perform my best I find, than if I stay up later and get up later. So that's kind of why I force myself into it. My girlfriend is also, she sleeps so much. She's like a toddler. She needs to go to bed really early, and well, she still gets up pretty early, like 7:00, but she needs a lot of sleep, which is great for me because it encourages me to go to bed early. Anyway, where am I going with this? Yeah, if I don't fall asleep by 9 or 10, I have this moment where I'm like, my head's bopping and my eyes are fully closing. My left eye gets so droopy. And when I used to drink, you would notice how drunk I was because my left eye almost looks like it becomes part of my cheek. It is honestly horrific. But once it gets past 10, if I'm not asleep, I'm good. I'm good until like 2 a.m. And my biggest nightmare with this is that, I'll go to bed. I seem to have this freaking habit of falling asleep for 15 minutes. I wake up and I'm like, oh shit, I need to pee. And then I go and have a pee and I get back in bed and I'm like, okay, cool. I've had a nap and now it's 10:00 and I am ready to start the new day. Anyway, I digress. I could easily turn around and say I'm not a morning person. And I do this sometimes where it's like I'm struggling to get up at 5:45. So I had a habit a few months ago, sort of when I first went fully self-employed, where I don't have a work day. My boss is very lenient in some ways where I don't have to be at my desk for a certain time period. But what that meant was that I didn't have to get up early. I can train at any time of the day. So I got used to kind of getting up a bit later. Me and my girlfriend would get up at the same time, which was so nice. But I generally found it made me less productive. And then if I've got this thing where if I'm not productive, I'm just a twat to be around, I get really angsty. But the thing that will happen to me now is, if I go to bed too late and I'm getting into bed and I'm not sleeping well and I look at my watch, I'm like, oh God, I've only got 2 hours until I wake up and maybe I should set my alarm back. I'm not a morning person. I need that extra sleep. I need that lie-in, I'm not a morning person. And it goes over my head. And it's kind of that self-fulfilling thing I tell myself so that I can just fall back into this bad habit. And in finishing my example there, I wish I chose a better example because it's a fucking lame example. But for me, it's probably one of the biggest ones I struggle with is that my narrative could be I am bad at going to bed because there you go. I'm going to say one, my limiting belief. I'm a faffer. I do generally find that a 2-minute task takes me 6 minutes. But hey, we move with it and I'm trying to get better at that. But yeah, you can already see it there, like my limiting belief. So I'm a faffer. It takes me ages to get to bed. And then because I'm not a morning person, maybe I'll sleep in. And that limiting belief there, you can see how it could spiral into me not getting optimal sleep. That's a shit example, isn't it? Anyway, the example I wanted to, that went through my head that I remember it annoyed me. I had this client, and I don't like to talk bad about clients, but I want it for my clients. And I've had this when I used to do group coaching more as well. I hate it when I want it more for them than they do themselves. Unless, there is a caveat to that, there will be periods of time where they go through a period of poor motivation and they have a bad week and they check in and they're like, oh, it's been a shit week. And I know that in their head, they're like, oh, can't do this. And during that week, I might want it more than them. But it's on a grand scale, they want it just as much, if not more, than me for themselves. But I did have this client and it just felt like it would be every odd day that he would want it. But other than that, I think he liked the idea of trying. But he just... maybe that's a massive failing. Well, not going to say maybe. It was a failing on my part that I couldn't get him to see how he was able to get the results he wanted to get. And he was one of my first clients. So I learned a lot from that. But I'll always remember, like, he commented on something I was doing and he said something along the lines of, I could never. I'm just not that disciplined. I remember seeing him and being like, oh, come here. Grab his head and shake him. Be like, come on. Yes, you're not going to be that disciplined at the moment. if it's to do with training, I am going to be more disciplined than you because I've been doing it seriously for like 14 years. Before that, all I wanted to be was a professional sportsman. So even when I was doing like kids or like low teens amateur sport, I was taking it as seriously as a fucking kid. So I've had way more opportunities to practice it, more opportunities to be consistent, practice my skill of discipline, so I will be more disciplined than you. There will be many things in this guy's life where he has more discipline than me. And just hearing, I felt like this was something that he always came back to, is when he was having a bad week, it was, I'm just not that disciplined. And so I've kind of crossed the half-hour mark, and maybe I can leave you with this, is, well, actually, I'm going to revisit the consistency before I leave you with that limiting belief. I want you to pick one thing until you listen to the next episode, because you're going to listen to the next episode because you're a legend. What do they say? Like and subscribe, brother. Don't like or subscribe. Just be cool. Where am I going? Sorry, I distract myself. This is my trouble, is I make myself laugh. I'll listen back to this after I post it just to check I didn't say something that's going to get me totally cancelled. And I'll be listening to this bit and laughing and be like, why can't you just fucking finish your sentence without making yourself laugh? So yeah, you're going to pick one thing and you're going to do it every day until you listen to the next episode, which will come out. I'll do the next episode on Monday, and I'll post it on Tuesday, because that way I can film on Monday, post on Tuesday. I'm filming this on a Tuesday, and I'll get it out tonight or tomorrow. So you get the best part of a week to practice. And I'm going to give you options. It's going to be wake up, do a certain amount of push-ups, wake up, cold shower, or wake up, 10-minute walk. There are rules for the walk though. For the walk, no headphones. You can't even look at your phone before you go. It's an wake up, brush teeth, have a quick pee, open the door, out the door, round the block. So there's your options. And you're going to pick one of those and you're going to do it every day. And when you listen to the next episode, you will have done it every day for 5 or 6 days, and you will have practiced being disciplined. And then your narrative can then change to, oh, fuck, I actually can be a disciplined person. I am consistent. And then from there, we're going to build and build and build and build. But that's my challenge to you. But the thing I want to leave you with as well on that limiting belief points is have a little think. What is the 1, 2, maybe even 3 limiting beliefs that are really holding you back? And I'll give you an example, because I'm really enjoying talking. This is why I fucking love podcasts, because anyone who knows me knows I can fucking talk all day, and I'll talk at you, especially if you get me started on training, nutrition. But I've also discovered I really like talking about, I fucking love philosophy and mindset stuff. And geez, now I'm on a rant. Now I just want to help the boys be boys and dudes be dudes and get out of any shit ruts you're in, because I know that, hey, being in good shape, being fit and strong, it is not going to necessarily make you happy. That can take a lot more work. So many facets to it. But doing all those things will make your life better. No one got in shape and was like, oh, my life's worse, unless you're abusing anabolic steroids, in which case, come on, mate, be cool, don't bother. Just fucking eat right, train hard, see what happens to your body. Anyway, I digress. My limiting beliefs, yeah. What was one of mine? Oh, I'm not a confident person. I always thought I was a bit of an introvert. I don't know what I am now, but when I'm around the right people, I'm extroverted as fuck. And if I'm around new people, I'm a bit shy. So I think those are just normal things, but I had this belief for ages that I wasn't that confident. And then would someone not that confident fucking... I mean, if you've listened to episode 1, would I say shit like that on the internet if I wasn't confident? I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm delusional. So there's a classic limiting belief there. I have this narrative that I will never be the best person at something, which, to be honest, is probably true. Think how many people there are in the world. But I had this thing where I haunted myself that I'll always be second best because the teams I played for always came second. If I've ever competed in myself, I've been into 2 jiu-jitsu tournaments and I came second twice. One of them I got beaten even on advantages. So you don't even score point. So it's confusing. You can win by submission in jiu-jitsu. You can score more points than someone, or you can get more advantages than them. And you get an advantage by trying a submission. Anyway, this guy beat me in the last few seconds because he essentially tried to put on a submission that wasn't there and he tried to crush my face. It was fucking sore, to be fair. And then I lost to another guy because in the last few seconds he got points on me on a technicality because I did something stupid. Anyway, I was just like, oh man, I'm just this choker. But I'm not this fucking choker. I just made a few mistakes. Sorry for all this fucking coughing. In the next one, I'm going to make sure I've got some water so I can sort out my throat. I wish I could think of some better, more vulnerable ones of limiting beliefs, but there are some in there. I have these limiting beliefs. Oh, shit. I do have one, but I don't know if I want to share it. Do you know what? Sorry, I promise that's going to be the only time I ever edit this. But I got too comfortable sitting talking to you, and I was going to go down something that wasn't appropriate. It just doesn't need sharing. But yeah, limiting beliefs. What's your 1 to 3 limiting beliefs? Have a think. Do your daily thing between now and the next episode. Think of your limiting beliefs and think how they're holding you back and how you can provide evidence to challenge them. And other than that, have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one.